Hey everyone, welcome to the boatyard. It's kind of high activity here today, Saturday, and I am just getting all ready to bring some boats down to Portland for an event I have with Alder Creek Kayak and Canoe. Anyway, it had me unwrapping this Whisper CL, and I noticed there wasn't a lot of videos on it going through the boat, so I thought I would just take you on a spin around it here. All right, there it is. And I actually even haven't fully uncovered it, but I thought it'd just be kind of cool to see how Eddyline, this boat comes wrapped in a plastic, sometimes boxed, depending on how it's being shipped. And then underneath that plastic wrap or under the poly wrap is this cheesecloth, which just kind of gives another layer for scratch. And then at the very end, we've got little foam caps, which are great to help the ends. And then my favorite thing to do on a brand new boat is Eddyline puts this really cool protection on their coaming. So we're gonna take all that off and voila, there's the Whisper. So we're looking at this Whisper. It's 18 feet, right around 73 pounds, and is just a really fun boat. I've used this a lot when I had younger kids, like 8, 9, 10, and I was able to have them paddle in front, get the whole experience, but still from the rear seat with the rudder control, I had a really good control of the boat. When I did that, I would usually put a dry bag with some extra gear and our lunch up in the front, and that would help offset the weight difference. So here we're looking at the cockpit, and this cockpit ring is actually the same ring size as the Skylark, but the depth is much more significant here. So this depth from there to there is really gonna allow various size paddlers to fit into it. There's a lot more depth here. We do have padding underneath for your thighs. There's your front foot braces and bulkhead. Coming back, we've got that seat, which is a similar seat as you would see in a Skylark or in several of the other sit inside models. So the seat back has 5 height adjustments. We're in the lowest one right here. And that also gives you some extra kind of idea of the depth if you see this seat and where the seat back comes to the coaming versus some of the other boats. I've got a Sitka right over here, and I can show you. I'm just cleaning up my own Sitka from last week's trip. And there you can see, obviously this cockpit's much lower. Depth-wise too, to the thigh brace, it's about the spread of my fingers, which ends up being about 9 inches. And then when we go back over here and do the same test, we'll notice that we've got maybe an extra inch. So plenty of volume for a lot of different size paddlers. As we go to the back, it's about the same. There's your rudder control. It's a really simple, rudder and rudder control. It's a really simple, elegant, lightweight rudder system. We just pull up on this jam cleat. That's gonna drop the rudder in. There's not a whole lot of moving parts if things were to break. It's very neat. The spring mechanism is basically the shock cord, which can be replaced. And a jam, you could actually just use the deck shock cord. So that's what gives it the spring action. When you let out of the jam cleat, that tensioned bungee pops this in. This is a really cool thing that Eddyline actually brought to the industry, which was running your cables internally through this extruded seam. So there are no cables, which used to be how all the boats would run cables under the deck or even through the bulkhead or through the hatch area. And if you had this thing fully packed, the cables could get obstructed in movement. In this situation, the cable actually runs right into this seam line, so it never goes into the boat and then comes back through and right out right there where it connects to the pedals. All right, and so you've got the moving pedal. Obviously, if I push on my right foot, the rudder goes right. Push on my left foot, the rudder goes left. And this kind of gives you an idea of what the space is. For my size, at 6 feet, I can definitely put dry bags in front of my feet. I end up being right about here with the foot brace, so I actually have a fair amount of cargo space that I can put some gear in. And I have sat in the front of this boat, so it does fit me up front easily. We have a lot of tour operators using Whispers. Let's take a look at the hull shape here. All right, there's the hull. And it's got that shallow V to it. Pretty low angle shallow V, so a lot of primary stability. And as we move down the length and look at the chine, you have a nice, very arched shoulder or chine to the boat, so it's really predictable. There's a lot of stability in this boat, and it's just not going to catch you off guard, and that's why so many tour operators like to use it. As they move to the stern, you can see that they start to thin out the volume and give that nice kind of built-in skeg or tracking stern, and that's going to help this track even when the rudder is not deployed. So overall, it's a shape that has been in the lineup for some time, and if you look closely at like a sandpiper sit inside recreational kayak, there's some characteristics that are similar, just a lot of primary stability and yet a good shape in rough conditions as well. So there you have it. That's the Whisper, 18 feet long, about 73, 74 pounds, and just a really unique boat that is going to do great on like a weekend tour. It's obviously not your 22-foot flagship touring boat with a center hatch, but because it doesn't have a center hatch, it does make a boat that's reasonable to paddle by yourself, even with some weight up front, or a smaller child or smaller paddler. You can still manage it pretty well yourself from the back position. And two paddlers that are in sync are going to have a really nice time moving this boat through the water. They'll still have a boat that they can maneuver if they decide to take it on, smaller rivers or smaller lakes. All right, well, that was kind of down and dirty, but I just unwrapped the boat and I thought it was a chance to show you a nice clean boat. We'll be using it at demos all season, bringing it to Alder Creek, like I said, end of April here in 2023. And you'll get a chance to take it on the water. And I'll try to do a second edit showing various people paddling the Whisper in our travels this spring. Thanks for watching.